Episode 57 AY December 11th, 2024. Judge rejects sale of Infowars to The Onion. In Episode 57 AY, one judge rejects sale of Infowars to The Onion. 2 United States. Bill McKibben answers the question, where does the climate movement go from here? 3 California. Wildfire roars into wealthy Malibu forcing evacuations. Main content. 0 ROSEP Introduction. 21 days ago, ROSEP published Episode 57 AJ November 20th, 2024. With this content, what if info was true and used for good and not evil? Info stars. Choose your website name to be used for good, not evil. Infobars, Infocars, Infozars, Infohars, Infojars, Infomars, Infopars, Infostars, Infotars, or Infoyars. ROSEP November 19th, 2024 top news excerpt. Alex Jones, a supporter of President-elect Donald Trump, has told his audience that Mr. Trump's allies also oppose the sale of Infowars to the satirical site Onion at the behest of the Sandy Hook shooting parents. Trump is angry, and they're all watching this, he said on his first broadcast after the Infowars website was restored. Onion CEO, we'll pave over Alex Jones' Infowars universe. ROSEP view. Onion alternatives to using the Infowars name for good instead of evil. Infobars information site to give alternatives to drinking alcohol. Infocars information site to give information about affordable electric vehicles. Infozars information site to make Ukrainians czars in the war against Russia. Infohars information site to make us laugh instead of getting angry. Infojars information site which gives out free jams and jars in exchange for recipes. Infomars information site which tells why Tesla's space program is failing. Infopars information site which tells Trump's par, although it is embarrassing. Infostars information on Taylor Swift's music for those that know nothing about her music. Infotars information on the infrastructure bill. Infoyars information on the few pirates who are good guys and take from the rich and give to the poor. Who is upset about the Infowars site being shut down? I think people should be looking over their shoulder and thinking about whether they really want to be doing this to shut down an important media operation, said Mr. Clark, who is Director of Litigation at the Trump Allied Center for Renewing America. Alex Jones and his allies are desperately trying to stop the sale of Infowars to The Onion. ROSEP update on that episode in this episode 57 AY December 11th, 2024. The judge rejected the monetary bid of The Onion in support of the parents of children killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School buying Infowars, and turned the name Infowars into a satirical website which the parents of the children killed at Sandy Hook Elementary hoped would be used for good and not for evil, as the Sandy Hook parents implied that Infowars had been used in the past. ROSEP disclaimer. ROSEP claims lack of knowledge of all details found on the Infowars site. For you who have not followed the news on Infowars, the possibly worst thing that was done on the site was promoting the lie that the killing of the children at Sandy Hook Elementary was faked and not true, and that no one died, and possibly the assertion was made that the children who seemed to have been killed were only actors. ROSEP would not want to recreate the Infowars lies on this episode in detail, and ROSEP has never visited the present site of Infowars. Generally, it can be said that Infowars was fined a large amount of money to be paid to the parents of the Sandy Hook Elementary children who died and were defamed after death because of the lies on the Infowars site about the deaths of the Sandy Hook Elementary children. ROSEP was heartened that a unique way of countering lies, and especially countering lies about the unnecessary deaths of young children, would result if The Onion bought the Infowars site. Humor based on the truth instead of lies would be one way to improve the internet world and prevent future deaths inspired by websites peddling baseless lies. Well, it didn't happen, but I get a message from the Sandy Hook parents almost every time I log in and watch my own videos on the ROSEP site, so the Sandy Hook parents' positive message is getting out through those Sandy Hook parents' messages, which I hope you also see. ROSEP also looks to the late-night hosts on broadcast media for humor to get through the darkest wood smoke-filled days. There are limits to what comedians will tackle on the topic of indoor residential wood-burning air pollution, and frankly, it is usually no laughing matter. As ROSEP's editor, I hope to approach the subject with the seriousness it deserves, but still point out what I think can be termed humorous in this absurd situation, at least from the point of view of my fellow near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners whose wood smoke invades their yards and infiltrates their homes, sickening the near neighbors and shortening their lives. From the article 1 United States. Judge rejects sale of Infowars to The Onion. The Onion's bid for the conspiracy website was supported by the families of victims of the Sandy Hook shooting and a non-profit focused on ending gun violence. Within hours of The Onion saying in November that it had won a bankruptcy auction to acquire Infowars, a bankruptcy judge halted the deal. Excerpts edited by ROSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, of 501c3 nonprofit organization. December 11th, 2024. A judge late Tuesday night said he would not approve the sale of Infowars, the website founded by the conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, to the Chicago-based satirical publication The Onion, prolonging a messy tug-of-war between 2 high-profile suitors. The total value of The Onion's bid was $7 million, including $1.75 million in cash put up by its parent company, with the rest coming from the families of the Sandy Hook shooting victims, who essentially opted to put a portion of their potential earnings from a defamation judgment against Mr. Jones toward The Onion's bid. At one point, a lawyer for the bidder associated with Mr. Jones questioned how the Sandy Hook families could afford all these lawyers, a remark that drew immediate objections. In his remarks, Judge Lopez acknowledged that the case involved lots of emotion from supporters of The Onion and fans of Mr. Jones. He concluded that you've got to scratch and claw and get everything you can for everyone else. 2 ROSEP view. The second topic in this episode is Bill McKibben answering the question, where does the climate movement go from here? Bill McKibben will mention fossil fuel burning as a source of air pollution, but I count the times that he also mentions wood burning as a source of air pollution. The count in the article below for mentions of wood burning as a source of air pollution is 0. I have faith Bill McKibben will look around and see what has been ignored for so long, and in the future mention wood burning air pollution in the same breath as fossil fuel air pollution at least once. What ideas does Bill McKibben have on the subject of where the climate movement should go from here? The opposite of humor boringness is criticized by Bill McKibben. Deciding whether a utility should burn fossil fuels or burn renewables is a subject that Bill McKibben says is boring. In contrast, whether a utility is still considering burning fossil fuels or burning renewables, burning biomass, or in other words burning wood like the wood that is burned by indoor residential wood burners, or the wood burning in wildfires wildfires, all of which emit at least 2.8 times the PM2.5 in CO2 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and all of which emit at least 450 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning, is infinitely interesting to Rosep's editor. Why not make a choice only between fossil fuels and the truly clean renewables of wind, solar, and geothermal? Why lump wood burning in with clean renewables? Please explicitly exclude wood burning from discussion of renewables as an option. How to make it interesting to everyone else? 1. Humor. 2. Repetition. 3. Targeting an age group, say those over 60. McKibben chooses door number 3 because older people are tolerant of boringness because they are of course boring. That's said by a 67-year-old Rosep editor. Is Bill McKibben is looking for me to join the group? The sticking point to joining a non-anti-wood burning organization is that wood burning is never mentioned or rarely mentioned. The idea that carbon neutrality of wood burning has been scientifically debunked must be introduced in such a group. Oh pioneers, that is the missions, I suppose. Rosep key excerpt from the article below. McKibben's newest organization, Third Act, a non-profit group for climate activists older than 60 that he started about 3 years ago, is highlighting the push for change at the community and state level. Over the past 18 months, they've begun a new strategy, attending the meetings of obscure state agencies or commissions that hold a lot of power over the energy transition. We covered the pivotal election of one such board in Arizona, which sets utility rates and decides whether to add fossil fuels or renewables to the electric grid. In November, all 3 open seats went to Republicans. These are places that no one has engaged much with for decades, McKibben said. They've been protected by a force field of their own boringness. Rosep view. So the ideas of Bill McKibben can be enumerated as M1 target oldsters and send them to boring meetings. R1 Rosep inserts here that the scientifically debunked theory of carbon neutrality of wood burning and the reasons why that theory is scientifically debunked should be introduced to these groups so they can fight against fossil fuel burning as well as wood burning because both are highly air polluting. R2 alternatives to wood burning should be introduced to these groups also, which include economic incentives like heat pump rebates for individual homeowners and landlords. R3 alternatives to industrial wood burning should also be introduced, and the need for ending subsidies for industrial wood burning and the need for ending subsidies for carbon capture at industrial wood burning facilities should be introduced to the group. Ending subsidies for carbon capture, which has failed over decades of attempts, should be replaced by higher subsidies for wind, solar, and geothermal so that wood burning industrially will end, and there will be no need for futile efforts to capture carbon after the fact. Just don't burn wood to begin with. R3 by necessity in the near future until wind, solar, and geothermal have a larger footprint. The idea of the fossil fuel natural gas as a bridge to the truly clean and cleaner alternatives of wind, solar, and geothermal should be introduced in contrast to the false solution of wood burning replacing industrial coal burning. As stated before, wood burning emits at least 450 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. M2 McKibben formed an organization called 350.org, which spawned Fossil Fuel Media. Rosep key excerpt from Fossil Fuel Media in the article below. Jamie Hinn, who co-founded 350.org with McKibben and now runs Fossil Fuel Media, said, "The effort will focus on community and regional scale clean energy projects and bringing climate issues into the 2028 presidential campaign framed as an economic issue." M3 Sushma Raman of Greenpeace USA said environmental leaders needed to highlight the economic opportunities of clean energy. The clean energy transition must proceed. M4 The Inflation Reduction Act should be defended as robustly as possible to keep money flowing into clean energy projects, McKibben said. M5 To the Youth Climate Justice Movement. McKibben wants to spread excitement about a future powered by sun, wind, and energy storage. R4 Rosep agrees that disseminating ideas about battery energy storage of wind and solar is key to achieving the aims of providing wind and solar power on demand. M6 A youth climate activist started a non-profit called Intersectional Environmentalist after gaining attention for one of her social media posts. It's going to be rooted in joy and radical imagination and community building. M7 Climate action will be local. R5 Rosep agrees that meeting people where they are is important in spreading information in contrast to misinformation. It is also important to have an online presence. Rosep members showing up at local utility board meetings seems like an effective strategy to make change at a local level as suggested in this article. Do the 4 organizations mentioned in this article seem amenable to listening to the idea of inclusion of action against wood burning along with action against fossil fuel burning? Visit their websites and see. 350.org Fossil Fuel Media Greenpeace USA and Intersectional Environmentalist. 2 from the article. United States. Bill McKibben answers the question, where does the climate movement go from here? New York Times. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. December 10, 2024. The outlook for the movement that McKibben has helped lead for more than 3 decades may seem grim. Donald Trump is likely to reverse many of President Biden's climate policies. Trump is expected to withdraw from the Paris Agreement, dismantle regulations, and target Biden's signature climate bill, the Inflation Reduction Act. For McKibben, who helped start the conversation on climate after the publication of his New Yorker essay The End of Nature in 1989, fighting back against Trump's policies remains a primary goal. But the climate movement also plans to spend the next 4 years hunkering down at the local level. Youth climate groups have also said they're pivoting from a national to a local stage, pushing for state-level laws like the Climate Change Superfund Act in New York, which could hold polluters accountable for climate change. This time around, the resistance will be local. 3 Rosep view. Will the threat of wood-burning wildfires in Malibu caused by climate change trigger more activism against both wood-burning air pollution and fossil fuel air pollution? Only time will tell. The following sentence illustrates the adverse acute effect of wood-burning air pollution on the ability to breathe. Rosep key excerpt: the Franklin fire forced students at Pepperdine University to put on masks as smoke crept into the library where they took shelter overnight. Rosep view. This week, luminaires from almost 99-year-old Dick Van Dyke and Cher to Barbara Streisand were forced from their homes by the Franklin fire near Malibu. From the article. 3 California. Wildfire roars into wealthy Malibu, forcing evacuations. Flames threatened City Hall, the iconic Malibu Pier, and Pepperdine University, where palm trees burned and smoke crept into the campus library. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates of 501c3 nonprofit organization. December 10, 2024. The blaze leaped across the Pacific Coast Highway, threatened the iconic Malibu Pier. The Franklin fire burned more than 2,200 acres in roughly 9 hours starting late Monday, according to California fire officials. Residents in central and eastern Malibu, a city of more than 10,000 people, were under evacuation orders or warnings. Smoke from the fire streamed into Los Angeles, prompting an air quality alert. The fire remains 0% contained by mid-morning. Residents will not be allowed to return home until the fire risk has been mitigated, the sheriff said. Classes disrupted. Pepperdine officials suspended operations at the university's Malibu campus overnight and urged students and staff members to stay inside. No injuries were reported, and the shelter-in-place order was lifted on Tuesday morning. The city of Malibu closed all schools on Tuesday. Read about the harrowing night at Pepperdine, California. Malibu. Dick Van Dyke and Cher flee their Malibu homes as Franklin fire burns. Mr. Van Dyke, who turns 99 on Friday, said that he and his wife Arlene had fled their home with their pets as the Franklin fire threatened their community.